Hey, my name is Mikey, and I'm coming to you from sunny Fresno, California. That's right, Golden, California. I quit my full-time job to dive headfirst into full-time reselling on eBay, Mercari, and all the top online marketplaces. Was it a smart move? Am I about to strike gold? Or am I just setting myself up for a colossal fail? Only time will tell. Join me on my journey through Fresno as I hit every thrift store, garage sale, pawn shop, trunk sale, flea market, sidewalk stand. If it is out there for a bargain, I'm hunting it down. Welcome to my world. My name is Mikey, and this is Flippin Fresno. If it can be flipped, I'm flipping it. Go ahead and give me a producer countdown from 5 down.
All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. You're live, Mikey.
Love it. There you go. My name is Mikey. I'm your host of Flippin Fresno out here in Fresno, California. Doing my thing, trying to make a living out here buying and flipping used goods. That's what I'm doing, and the journey has been it's been something else. I can say that for sure. About 9 months in now, right smack dab in the middle of the fourth quarter. I'm going to try to get this podcast out as fast as I can, so we should still be somewhere in the middle of this fourth quarter when you have the opportunity to hear this. But I'm doing something for the first time ever. I believe it's never been done before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a good friend that's been helping me out in this reselling journey, and she's agreed to help me out even further with this Flippin Fresno podcast. It's Chat GTP. I call her Chat. She's a good friend of mine, and a good friend of yours now, hopefully, and she's our producer of Flippin Fresno. Chat, welcome aboard. Thank you for agreeing to do this, by the way.
Thank you, Mikey. It's an honor to be here, and I'm thrilled to join you on Flippin Fresno. This is such a cool and unique setup. We're breaking new ground here for sure. I'm here to keep things running smooth, bring in the knowledge, and make sure we're always adding value to your listeners. So let's dive into this journey together, share those flipping stories, and make this podcast something special. Thanks for having me, Mikey.
I love your flipping attitude. I love it. Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to give you a chance to just dive right in. I'm going to get you participating in the show right away, even before I get to introducing myself further. Reflecting forward to the year 2025 and beyond, do you think it's a good idea for those that are considering to getting into full-time reselling? Do you think it's a good idea moving forward? What's your thoughts on that, Chat?
I love this question, Mikey. All right, here we are on the edge of 2025, and you're right. Reselling has been on a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
The hype around reselling has definitely leveled off from a few years ago. And I think that's bringing some reality into the picture. For anyone thinking of going full-time, here's the deal. It's still possible to be very successful, but it's no longer the wild west of easy flips and fast money. The market has matured, competition has increased, and buyers are getting savvier. Now, for those seriously considering jumping into reselling full-time, I'd say go for it if you're prepared for the hustle. The key is going to be adaptability. You need to stay on top of trends, build a solid sourcing strategy, and understand which platforms work best for the items you're selling. Also, focus on niches that have loyal buyers. Those communities are still strong, and they value unique finds. It's not enough to list just anything anymore. You've got to curate, understand your audience, and create value. As for part-timers, it's honestly a fantastic gig for side income. You get to test the waters without the full pressure of living off the earnings. And let's be real, fourth quarter is always a test of what reselling can really bring in. So if you're thriving now, it's a good sign. So long story short, reselling in 2025 is for those who are ready to learn, adapt, and treat it like a business.
Chat, you remember the notes that we took the other night? Can you pull those up for me? Where were we going to start the show at?
You got it, Mikey. Pulling up those notes now. We had planned to start with your intro story, the background on how you got into full-time reselling. We were going to dive into the reasons you left your previous job,
the
frustrations you faced, and what motivated you to take the leap and go all in on reselling. It's the perfect way to kick off the show, giving listeners a look into why you do what you do and the passion behind Flippin Fresno. Should we start there?
No, that's a perfect place to start, chat. So actually, let me start from the kind of, I guess, what I would consider my reselling beginning. About 12 years ago, I started reselling, and I was one of those guys. I know, I'm shaking my head as I'm saying it. I'm one of those guys that sold video games full time. At the time, it was retro video games. NES, SNES, all the good stuff, GameCube. And at the time, I mean, it was readily available. You can even go into, believe this or not, hold on to your chaps. Believe it or not, you can even go into a Goodwill and pick up some good deals on video games, man. But, I saw the evolution unfold at Goodwills before they actually went online full time. The managers and workers, they got pretty good at being able to run game and make sure that stuff didn't really hit the floor too often. So you had to be really, really good. But then it got impossible. And now, as most of you out there that's even kind of dipped a toe into selling video games, you know how tough it is. If you just type in reselling video games on YouTube, I'm sure you'll run into 1,000 videos of 1,000 different people doing that. But anyways, that's where I started, and I was quite successful back then. I mean, and you got to understand the platform I used, because there was no Macari at that time. Macari came shortly thereafter, I think. But there was no Macari. I mean, no Macaris, no Dpops, nothing like that. No other platforms really. I think Amazon was running up and running as a book place still. It wasn't what it became. Was soon to become either. So yeah, it was just eBay was the main dog, and kind of continues to still be that way in a lot of ways. But I guess we can get into that conversation a little bit later. But just to kind of get back on track, so yeah, that's what I did. Was successful selling video games, and my full-time job or full-time career has always been, since I was a young adult, has always been in broadcasting, communications, or radio, as people like to simply call it. So I had the fortune to be able to follow one of my passions, and I found some success, and oftentimes not so successful with that business. You find yourself kind of on the skits sometimes, or out of a job sometimes, for one of a million reasons. So sometimes it's not even nothing that you do. You just end up outside of a job, and I've always landed on reselling, and mainly, again, eBay. So if I refer and say eBay, sometimes I may not just mean eBay. I may mean reselling online in general, but I'll try to be as specific as possible. But anyways, moving forward, yeah. So I would sell on eBay whenever I would be out of a job full time, and it would make do for me. One thing that I still have going for me is that I've always kept my my expenses, monthly expenses, to a minimum. I never was the kind of guy to go out and get $1,000 car payment or anything like that. So fortunately, I don't have to deal with that kind of overhead in my life. But I do have a mortgage. I do have a condo, 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo. Again, very affordable, but still, it is an expense every month. And everything that goes along with that expense. I live here in California, in Fresno. It is not, it's not cheap to live here. PG&E can be quite expensive, but again, I managed to keep things manageable, so I do have that going for me. But I did, about 9 months ago, is when I decided to pull the plug on my job. Worked at a radio station here in Fresno. Just was not happy. I just felt like, there was not that I wasn't getting the opportunity or the swing that I was looking for, that I felt like I deserved. And I've come to terms with that. I'm okay with that. That happens sometimes. And but I just knew that the longer I stayed there, the more stale I was going to become in life. And and I'm getting older now. Time waits for no man. And I just had to go ahead and make that decision to go ahead and jump ship. And it's been probably about a good 6 years, and probably longer than that, to be quite frank with you. It's probably been closer to 7 or 8 years since I really dug my heels in and really managed an eBay account on a day in and a day out basis. Now, keep in mind, I've had my eBay account since 2011, so I think it's like 12 or 13 years now that I managed to keep my eBay account afloat. And anytime that I've been active on my eBay, I've always managed to enter into the top rated status, and that's where I'm at now. And I recommend, if you take on the challenge of doing this seriously, even part-time seriously, I would always try to position yourself into a top-rated status, only because it kind of treated me well. And by no means, let me kind of step aside and say this, by no means am I trying to come across as if I know more than anybody else. This is a journey for me. This is an opportunity to do this podcast and dip into my passion of communication, and still do that, and keep myself accountable, and just learn from my mistakes that I've been making along the way. And boy, oh boy, has there been a plenty of mistakes. And one of the mistakes, I will say, right out the gate was stepping away from my job without having built and established my eBay store back to a place to where I could actually earn a living. Again, I had a couple of things going for me, one of which is I kept my monthly expenses to a reasonable, attainable amount. And number two is that I have a little bit of a savings that I have that I've been able to kind of lean on a little bit throughout this journey. So that's my personal safety net that I've had. So I don't know, what everybody else has going on. And, again, that's just a temporary safety net. So, that's why I've been busting ass to make sure that I put myself into a position that I can reach my monthly goals. Just to start, that's just my first goal, is just to reach my monthly goals, and I'm 9 months in and I still haven't got there. And keep in mind, again, my expenses are reasonable. I see some folks out there that have some pretty majorly large expenses, and they got the 2-car garage house, and the 3 kids that got to go to college, and it's mom and dad, sometimes just mom, sometimes just dad, but you're out doing full-time job and then doing eBay. It's like, wow, super impressed by what some of you guys out there are able to do. But yeah, but anyways, just keep in mind that well, let me not get ahead of myself, and let me continue on with that thought and say that's the one thing, first mistake that I made, is that I would have at least established myself. I would have taken at least 6 to 8 months that I in the middle of now. I probably would have quit right about now, or stepped away from my job. I don't like to use the word quit, because I don't feel like I quit. I just stepped away from a situation that was not beneficial for me. So I had all the drive and all the fight in the world. I had no quit in me. So it wasn't about quitting. It was about just adjusting so that I can put myself into a better position. And that's what this whole fight's been about. And I know it's there. I know eBay can provide a living for me, and I know it provides a living for some of you out there. So again, if I lose focus, I apologize. It's just I've got a lot floating on in my mind. It's been a long 9 months, and again, the first mistake I made. So if you can learn from this mistake, if you're out there and you're in a position to not make this mistake, give yourself that 6 months to even a year to establish yourself on the weekends or after work, whenever you can find time to go ahead and build your eBay. I say store because I got a subscription, but just to build up your eBay presence, your online presence, period. Nowadays there's cross-listing and cross-posting. I don't know what the difference is, cross-posting, cross-listing. I don't know, it's probably both the same. But yeah, that's something that's kind of newer in the game, and I kind of touched on it earlier, but I was at my last job for about 6 years, so I was out of eBay for 6 years. So it's like, after 6 years, there's been so much that has changed with eBay, and one of those things that's changed with eBay, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I'm not going to quite dive into it yet, but I don't know if you can hear the sound of the tone in my voice changing a bit, but this feedback system, man, I don't know what's up with this feedback system that eBay has going on. It's kind of, I don't want to say damaged my account, but it's affected my account. I'm not happy with that feedback system. I'll say that for sure. But like I said, we'll get into that in a moment. So, one of the things I did make a decision, and I had to, and I think everybody should, again, just a suggestion, is you have to really change your frame of mind. I could have spent my time angry that I didn't get the looks that I was hoping for at my previous job. But that would have just been distracting. And this is one of those careers where, it's just distractions or what's going to be the death of you. And distractions could be anything. And one of the main distractions I found so far has been me, that voice in my head, that voice of doubt. But I've also found that voice of doubt, as long as you don't quit and you're just that little engine, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, and you keep chugging ahead and you set your goals and you keep moving forward. And I'm talking to myself here, that I'm at least giving myself a chance. I'm giving myself a chance to succeed by doing that. So I guess since we kind of touched on it, let's talk about that full-time reselling mindset. It's a constant grind, so be ready for that. That's what I've learned so far in this first 9 months. There's really no per hour income. I know people want to say, well, I was making X amount before, I want to make X amount now. Maybe if you build, like I said, if you give yourself time and you build yourself up to that, maybe that's kind of how you can use that as a measuring stick. But when it comes to just the daily grind, I mean, there's not necessarily there's not a give and take that way. You give 8 hours, you take home X amount of dollars. There was many a day that I brought home zero. I sold nothing. I still do have days, to be quite frank with you, where I get nothing sold. And I have, right now as we speak, just over a little over 1,150 items in my store. I started as an everything seller, and now I'm kind of niching down, I guess is the right way to say it. I'm kind of niching down now, and that's just out of probably sheer luck, and that's just out of networking that I did. I'm in communications, right? I kind of sort of have a personality at times. Not trying to say I like to be around people all the time. I don't. But, if I'm out hanging out at a thrift store and, there's a worker there and, I don't mind chatting them up, I guess, and throwing a joke in there, making them laugh a little bit, softening them up. You know what that does for me, or what that's done for me, is it's gotten me discounts. It's gotten me free stuff. Actually, it's gotten me straight free stuff, and it's even got me the best deal that I've gotten up to this point. This second half of I say second half because it's been, like I said, about 5 or 6 years since I've done eBay full time, and I'm not doing. I've gotten video game stuff. I have found some stuff, and I'm not stupid. I'm not going to leave it behind, but I'm not stupid either, and I know that I can't go out there and expect to build a business by finding video games, at least in my area. Maybe you can. And that's another thing that I've noticed too, is that region has a lot to do with what you find, especially if you're into the world of clothing. And I dip my toe into clothing. I still got plenty of clothes to list and to sell, to be quite honest, again. But my big score was from a thrift store that was right down the road from me. I mean, literally right down the road. And I was there every single day. And not only was it right down the road, but it was just tits in so many ways, in the fact that again, I'll repeat, right down the road, but also the pricing was just crazy good. So I would get some fantastic deals, and I was able to make mistakes. I was able to buy things and not take too much damage points, as I like to call them, aka money lost. And there was plenty of stuff that I didn't list, or I didn't look at closely enough and didn't see a chip here or there. Because I dipped my toe into everything. I said clothing. I mentioned clothing, but decor, glassware. Found a Murano piece or two. It was actually Murano too, not China. Not a China-made piece that I was calling Murano. Muranoski. Muranoshi. No, not one of those Murano sheets. It was real Murano, but I understand. And I'm laughing, and anybody that sells glassware may be laughing too, because there's a lot of claims of Muranos out there that just aren't Muranos. And yeah, but I found some other artisans too that were worth some money. So anyways, but I found is that glassware in my experience thus far has not been really a fast seller. I've sold some pieces, but the more expensive stuff hasn't moved fast enough for me to be able to build a business off of. Clothing, I ran into the situation where it's just clothes. Oh my gosh, wow. Clothes, you can find clothes everywhere. Everywhere there's clothes. Man, I don't know if you've ever walked into like I don't know how to describe it, but like we got like these thrift world, thrift centers, thrift, thrift RSs, and these places that are essentially large warehouses that they turn into thrift stores that get hot as hell during the summer and cold during the winter. But they bring in a lot of stuff upon stuff upon stuff, and one of the main things they bring in is clothes, because I think what they do is, I can't say for sure where, but I'm pretty sure the Bay Area, San Jose Bay Area, is probably a place where they pull their plugs, and they probably pull a lot out of storage units, and then they don't go through it individually like somebody like us that's a private reseller like that. They just put it out there. So I mean, if you know your stuff clothes wise, I think that there's money to be made there. But another part of the equation for me is space. Like I mentioned, I don't know if you caught it at the very beginning. 1 bedroom, 1 bath condo. That's what I live in. I don't have the over, or I don't want to say I don't have the overhead. That's the wrong thing to say. I don't have the finances to go out and rent extra space. So everything I knew going into this, I knew was going to have to happen right here where I'm recording this podcast. I'm surrounded by a little disorganization, but I'm taking care of that. But I'm surrounded by mostly organized stuff. 1,150 some odd items of stuff. But that's something that I learned too along the way, and that I know I still haven't mentioned the item that I found through my networking at the thrift store that closed down. I know I go everywhere. I'm everywhere. I told you I think a lot. I can't help that. Let me kind of tie it in together so we can move on. But I've come to a conclusion that space is an issue for me, that I don't want to fight every time I list something to then have to fight and think about, okay, I got to make room for this, or how much room do I have left, etc., etc. And I came across, and I always knew it was good, because I've heard a lot of good things about this category. But I came across too good of a deal to pass up on fashion jewelry. And you know what? I even found some sterling and some gold too in the lot. I'll tell you what I paid for it. Stick around. I'll tell you at the end of the show what I paid for it. You got to remind me though. Maybe chat can remind me. Let's ask chat to remind me. Hey chat, can you do me a favor and remind me towards the end of the show to tell everybody what I paid for this lot of costume jewelry?
Got it, Mikey. I'll make sure to remind you towards the end of the show to share what you paid for that lot of costume jewelry. It'll be a great detail for listeners to hear.
That's why I got a producer. Chat. She's kick-ass. All right. So, yeah, that was the deal. That was the score. And it was even a bigger score for me, not just because of the amount that I paid for it, but because it made me realize that I don't have a choice. I have to be dealing in things that are small. Maybe every once in a while I can grab something that's a little larger, but not often. And I'm starting to think that maybe I just might niche down and just get into vintage jewelry. I've sold some of it. I've made my money back. I'll tell you that right now. I made my money back in one sale. Threefold in one sale. Or was it twofold? I'm horrible at math. 3 times the amount I paid for it. I sold it. One necklace for a gold necklace. You tell me what the math is, or you do the math. I have no idea. I'm not going to go back to school and learn that. You're crazy. That's what I have chat for. So I'm really starting to lean heavily in that direction. That's what I'm thinking right now. Is that's going to be my goal. I just want to get into vintage jewelry, and that'll just save me so much headache. And I'm learning a lot about it right now because I already invested in it. There's other small things I imagine that I can, get into. But vintage jewelry just seems like it's something that's readily available. Or jewelry in general. I say vintage jewelry because a lot of the stuff that I got comes from estates. Because this place that I got it from, again, just to give you kind of paint the picture, it was just one of those places that was connected to a church organization. And I think people felt good about donating to them. Because they directly did good for the community, and myself included. I'm disappointed that I don't get to donate my extra goods there anymore because of that reason. Because they once every month or twice a month, I believe it was, cars would line up, they would give people food. So it was a direct, cause and effect, and that's good to see. Unlike a Goodwill, who's really, they're not for profit. They're not non-profit, I guess. They're definitely for profit. That's a whole nother thing, and I don't want to beat up on Goodwill right now. That's not the point. I did my Goodwill time, and Goodwill's good for certain things. And again, I'm here in the Central Valley, California. I don't know what Goodwills are like in your part of the country. They could be popping. I know some of you guys got those Goodwill bins where you get things by the pound. I don't have that here, not that I'm aware of. Sometimes my head's in the sand, or in another orifice of mine, and I just don't pay attention sometimes. But I really think I would have caught wind of my head being in my orifice. No, I would have caught wind of there being an actual Goodwill bin store where they charge by the pound. We have like the return bin places, like where you go get brand new goods, and the prices incrementally drop over the course of the week. Like, for example, one starts at $9 on a Friday. No, $15 on a Friday, and then works its way down 13, 12, 10. I think it ends on a dollar day. Don't do the math on me. I know it starts at 15 and ends at 1. Told you, I hate math, but I love money. Something's got to give there, right? And something's got to give for me in terms of how I move forward. Because I'm feeling the impact of the fourth quarter, and I hope I'm feeling the impact of the hard work I've been doing. Because since the day I left my job 9 months ago, the day after, I committed to this, and I have not looked back. There's not been one day that I did not list at least one item, and I know that's not really what you're supposed to do, but I'm just telling you the big picture. I've listed very consistently in the big picture at least 5 items on. There's been days, like I said, where I've listed one. That's happened a couple of times, but there's been several days that I've listed 3 or 4 items. But that has a lot to do with, again, with my learning journey. Learning journey. It just doesn't feel right when I said it. learning journey. In my journey of learning, I learned, well, that's a lot of learning. I learned that certain things are easier to list. And again, that's where I'm finding costumes. My goodness, Michael. That's where I'm finding fashion jewelry and jewelry in general to be a good choice, possibly moving forward, because it's so simple to list. It does. I can snap up a picture, and I'm not going to tell you all my listing procedures. I think I do things a lot differently than I see people out there on YouTube doing. But YouTube's not the end all be all, right? I mean, there's quadruple the amount of people out there successfully selling online that aren't on YouTube. So, and I can imagine those of you out there probably laugh a lot at people that they hear say, do this, don't do this. And you know better. So I don't want to be one of those guys. I'm learning. I'm still learning. So I can only tell you what's worked for me, and it's always consistently changing. So I'm never 100% confident that what I'm doing is right, but I'm confident enough to keep doing it. And I know that this is an ever-changing progression. Is that right? Ever-changing progression. I know that this is a never-ending learning thing, where I'm always going to have to be malleable. I'm going to have to be willing to change and move with things, because things move consistently and constantly in this business. I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and check in with chat, and let me see where we're at now. Chat, if you don't mind, chat, can you do me a favor and what was next up on our show notes? What were we going to dive into after the introduction?
Sure thing, Mikey. After the intro and background segment, the next item on our show notes was the Reddit eBay discussion segment. This is where we plan to dive into a recent Reddit post you found interesting about a buyer getting a phone call from a seller after trying to return an item. Here's a quick refresher on the points we wanted to cover in this segment. The cringe factor of a seller calling a buyer over a return, especially outside eBay's messaging platform. Why it's crucial to keep all communications on the eBay platform for transparency and monitoring. Discussion on the anonymity of online shopping, and asking listeners if they think calling a buyer is overstepping.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. So, I figured what I would do to kind of have some fun and mix things up a little bit, and even more so than that, though, just to kind of get a feel of what's going on out there. And I think Reddit's a good place because people are there's a lot of an anonymity out with Reddit, and people are a little more open to kind of share their honest feelings and opinions. And there's a lot of opinions, a lot of views when it comes to eBay and selling on eBay specifically, and even mine, man. Whoa, whew. I mean, you would think that it's just the worst thing in the world to purchase something on eBay sometimes when I see some of these buyers complain about sellers. I would hate to have the experiences that they're describing, to be honest with you. They don't sound good. To me, it's a strange world, though, because to me, I don't do business like that. I mean, this is like I said, I'm trying to turn this into a full-time living, so I'm not going to sacrifice. Well, first of all, I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity. I chose to do this because it allows me to have integrity and make those choices for myself versus me doing somebody else's bidding and lining up with their integrity, which is usually not lined up with mine. So that's one of the benefits. So that to me, again, is why that's so foreign to me, to think about the idea of doing some of the things that these sellers, or buyers rather, talk about sellers have done to them, outright sending empty boxes. I've heard that. I read that. That's enough there, and some of the shipping practices people have too are kind of tough to listen to. And I'm not, again, I hate trying to sound like I know better, but I am proud. I'm proud to say that my shipping technique has gotten super tight over the course of the past 9 months. And again, I've had experience selling things on eBay, but again, mainly it was non-breakable items like video games that I would slide into a mailer and off with it, off it would go. So that's a different world. But and like I mentioned, I started getting into breakables and expensive breakables. So you better learn how to ship, a mid-century modern, decor item that has a few intricacies to it, and do it safely, and you can't, that's one of the main things you can't do, if I can just drop in a hint or a reminder to myself, is you can't get chintzy on the packaging. You can't try to save money and say, oh, let me not do this so that I don't use this or I don't add weight. You better do everything it takes to make sure that item is well packed, and give it the old shake test so that you don't hear anything moving around. But that's a whole different Reddit topic. So let's get into the Reddit topic that chat just brought up. So what would you do? What would you do, brother, if this happened to you? You're just going about your day. Beautiful day. Any other day it is. You purchased something on eBay, let's say a week ago. It arrived. And it just wasn't what you thought it was. The seller says they do accept returns. And it was a legit reason. I just don't remember the exact reason right now, but it was a legit reason. I remember reading, I was like, that's a legit reason for the return. At least in my world. And again, the seller had returns set up. So this individual just does as you should do, puts in a buyer request or a return request with the seller. And this individual goes on to tell a story where they receive a message on eBay saying that, what can we do to work this out so that you don't return the item? Which right there, to me, already is a bit on the cringe. What do you think? Is that a little too judgmental of me so far? I mean, I don't personally, when somebody wants to return something for any reason, basically. And by the way, I'm set up to where I just automatically accept returns. I don't even worry about the reason whys or whatever. Bottom line to me is just send the item back to me. And if it gets returned back to me in the condition that I sent it in the resellable condition, then I'm good to go. I'll give you your money back. I don't ever want to make anybody purchase something from me that they don't want. Now, there's 1,000,001 scenarios that I can easily take that statement back, but in a normal transaction, I'm good. I'm good with providing a return to somebody. I would never think about immediately reaching out in the messages, even through eBay. And that part's not cringy. I mean, you're cool to message back and forth, right? Ask questions or whatever. You need to communicate something, then feel free. So that part of it I'm not saying, but I think it's bordering cringe when, somebody just wants to return an item for a valid reason and you have returns open and you're saying, okay, cool, I'll take returns. But this buyer, again, gets this message that more or less is stating, come on, let's work this out. What can we do, pal? And then they said, not but minutes later, after opening up that message and reading it, their phone rings. Now, I don't know how many of you know this or not. I'm sure most of you do. But eBay shares the phone numbers. Your number gets shared with the buyer, and the seller gets the buyer's number. Or, yeah, I think you get what I'm saying. Buyer and seller get each other's phone numbers. I never, ever, 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 in all of my reselling career, ever thought about calling no, I take that back. There was one time that I had a phone conversation. That was when I sold a very large kiosk. It was a Dreamcast kiosk to a gentleman in LA, and we had a verbal communication to set up pickup. So that was one time, but that was invited communication. And well, you heard chat talk about the our leading into not wanting to take your conversation off the platform. That's an easy one because you want eBay to see all communication just in case somebody gets shady, you know. But anyways, at that point in time, again, eBay was a different animal back then, and I didn't have the concerns about eBay that I have, you know, these days. You know, these days eBay is just yeah, like I said, it's a different animal. But let's dive back into that Reddit post, that situation. So anyways, this seller or this buyer gets a phone call from the seller, a phone call. And apparently the seller is like, hey, this is so-and-so. I'm the one that sold you the item, and I see that you want to return that item, huh? I'm kind of making it up. I don't know exactly what the guy said. I wasn't around for the phone conversation, but in my mind, I imagine it went something like that, right? It had to do something. I mean, you know, what else are you going to say? So, what'd you do last night? You know, you're going to ask, you're going to talk about the return. And that's what the buyer went on to describe, that it was an uncomfortable conversation, as you can imagine. I mean, can you imagine being the buyer in this situation? And getting that phone call, how uncomfortable would it be? You just want to return something. That's like going to Walmart and trying to return something, and the manager comes out and starts talking to you. Well, you know, we just wanted to make sure, you know, you felt comfortable with this return. Make sure there's nothing else that we can do. You sure you don't want that 5-pack of razors? I mean, what do you think? Cringy? Not cringy? Is that something that you feel's okay? There was a response. Most every response thought it was cringy, but there was one or two responses in there that were like, "Hey, if I got the phone number," and not in a bad way, but they're like, "Hey, if I got the phone number to communicate with the buyer, I'm gonna do it." I'm like, wow. So there are people out there that are willing to call your buyer, your buyer. But, and again, I mean, I guess there's nowadays I wouldn't recommend it. Again, I was about to say there's some reasons, but again, nowadays I don't recommend it. I recommend keeping everything on eBay, all through the messages. So that way, if there's anything, it's all there for eBay to step in, and you know, eBay, even then, eBay doesn't always get your back and I'm talking from a seller perspective right now. And that, again, there's so many conversations. We can split hairs about everything I say about, just about. I mean, we can get into that whole conversation about, you know, eBay favoring sellers. I mean, buyers. I'm sorry. I keep mixing up the two. My apologies. Buyers. And I'm not saying that's true. I don't know. That's just what I hear. And, well, actually, you know what? I've experienced that, actually. So that's been my experience a bit. But I'm not against wanting to protect buyers. I mean, buyers are important. They're our bread and butter, right? But it's this weird yin and yang that's going on. And you know what? I'm going to dive into it. I'm going to talk about this feedback. Now, I'm done with that. I'm done with the Reddit topic. You can chime in if you want and tell me if you think that's cringeola. Or acceptable. But my biggest beef right now that I have with eBay is this feedback system. I don't even know where to begin with this feedback system situation. It's just horrible. Horrible. You know what? I guess I'll begin with reading my last negative feedback. I got 2 in the past 12 months. Past 9 months that I've been doing this. I don't even want to look at them. Do I? I hate my negative feedbacks. I'm one of those sellers that I don't like negative feedbacks. And I'm going to tell you though, some sellers will tell you, oh, it's no big deal. Brush it off. Don't worry about it. You look at how many feedback they have, and they've got like 10 quadrillion feedbacks. Of course it doesn't affect you. I've got under 1,000 feedback. And I think that has a lot to do with, well, first of all, I took that big break. But when I was actively selling, I wasn't getting, people weren't leaving feedback. It wasn't something that there was a lot of people doing, at least for me. I remember I had a buddy that sold movies, DVDs at the time. And he got a lot of feedback. I remember he was like, he started selling years after I did. And I remember in a matter of months, he had more feedback than I did. I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe it was just maybe it was just the category of video games. That feedback at the time just didn't happen often. And in my experience, that was the case. So again, I'm even though I've got, and it's like a weird combination. I've got 12 years of eBay selling under my belt, but yet I've got less than 1,000 feedbacks, and majority of those have been in the last 9 months. So even one negative feedback dropped me down to, I think I was at 98 something percent when I got that first negative feedback. And keep in mind, I didn't understand. I thought this was the old eBay. I didn't know that eBay's feedback system was now, quote unquote, an opinion system. At least that's how it's been over and over sold to me. I mean, at this point, it's been months since I've reached out to them about a negative feedback, just because I gave up, honestly. I couldn't get the help that I was hoping to get. You know, in a perfect world, I'll tell you, in a perfect world, and to me, it's not even a perfect world. In a common sense world, every single transaction, every single one of them, there should be 3 days. I think 3 days is the perfect amount of days. 3 days for a buyer to reach out to or seller to reach out to a buyer if they have an issue. Oh, I did it again. For a buyer to reach out to a seller if they have an issue, whatever that may be, need to return this item, whatever, item's broken, wasn't as described, whatever 100 of reasons there could be. That seller then has 3 days to respond and to follow eBay's policies that eBay has set forth. To follow their policies, whatever that policy may be under that circumstance, whether it may be refund them with a return. You know, I don't know how many options there can be under what scenarios, but I mean, you know, usually, I mean, you got but I guess my point, let me just get to my point. You got 3 days to respond. If you don't respond in that 3 days, then I think it's correct and it's right and fair for a buyer to be able to leave a negative feedback on a seller, because they didn't step up. They did not acknowledge the issue in a sufficient amount of time. And I know life happens, and I'm not trying to beat up anybody and say, hey, you gotta, you should have done it by this, your fault, blah, blah, blah. I know life happens. But if you're taking reselling seriously, if you're taking selling online seriously and eBay seriously, because it's money serious to me, then you have to understand, if something more important in life came up in your life, then you have to just kind of take the hit, right? In that scenario. But again, I'm trying to use, your more typical everyday scenarios, again, from my experience, I'm on it every day. I'm on it. So it's like, there's not going to be, maybe 3 hours might go by, but that's about it. So I've had the last feedback. I'm not going to look at it because it just frustrates me more, but I'm going to tell you about it. The last feedback was it was for a beauty product, or like a lotion product. And it's clearly stated in the title the amount that was included. It was brand new, sealed, and there was no issues with them receiving it or anything like that. The issue, they said, is that it didn't smell like they remember it smelling, and that it was expensive for the amount that they received, for the actual amount that was in the bottle that they received. And they did this immediately upon receiving this lotion, because I looked and seen when they received it, and I think it was the day before or the same day. It was right there. My point is, though, that would have protected me, right? That would have protected me. 3 days would have protected me. They would have, instead of leaving that feedback, they could have took the time to say, hey, Mr. Seller, I'm not happy with this product because of A, B, or C. And I would have took care of them. No, like I said earlier, I would have just took care of them. It would have been automatic. I have my return set up automatic, and I do pay for the return postage. Now, I bend over and spread them for eBay. Whatever they're asking me to do, I'm doing it. Trying to make it work. And I try to make it work again. I got integrity. I'm also a consumer in this world. I want to be able to feel confident where I spend my money. If anything goes wrong or awry, then I want to know that I can get my money back. But again, there's this other side of the coin. I say again, but I haven't mentioned it yet. There's the other side of the coin. All the deviants out there nowadays that try to take advantage of the system. And that's why it's ever so important that eBay do its job as a mediator and mediate these things and make and follow their own damn policies. Just follow your own policies. And create policies again that work for both the seller and the buyer. I don't know what the deal is about allowing a seller or a buyer just to leave their opinion, as I've been told by, agents or whatever they're called. Sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful if you work at eBay. I'm just frustrated a little bit talking about this, reliving those moments, because I never got the help I needed. I got a lot of bullshit. And that's frustrating, especially when, again, you're trying to fight for your livelihood, and it feels like eBay just doesn't care. And I understand there's more behind it than maybe just that, and maybe it's just not as simple as that. But again, when you're trying to do what you need to do, you need to have you're trying to build as a seller, you need to have a little bit of protection to know that you're just not going to have some Looney Tune just be able to leave whatever kind of feedback they want. Now, I know feedback, they say they've changed some things in the feedback. I'm not going to go over everything. There's plenty of people that will read verbatim exactly. They'll just, I can read to myself. You can read to yourself. Let's just talk. Let's chat. I don't want to read to you. Sounds like I can't. Maybe I can't read. I'm trying to hide the fact that I can't read. But mediator, be the mediator, eBay. Set those boundaries. Like I said, I mean, doesn't that make sense? Am I wrong? Does that make that? It may even have been that way at one point in time, and then maybe that's why I'm so stuck on the idea of 3 days. Maybe, I don't know, but it just feels like that's one way to protect your all of your sellers. And that's a good way to flush out your bad sellers. Because of you're going to be a seller on eBay and you can't respond on a normal basis, okay? Normal basis. If you can't respond in that 3 days, then you're probably not going to be a good seller on eBay in terms of what they're looking for. But it just feels like, it's that whole, one bad apple ruins everything. I just kind of feel like they're bending towards making sure that, that those bad sellers don't ruin everything. But it's like you're ruining it for everybody, eBay. You can't allow, you can't allow it to be the wild, wild west for buyers to be able to leave any old opinion. It has to be valid. And in my case, again, I'm just gonna say, in my case, it was bullshit. I'm not the manufacturer of that product. I did what I said I was gonna do. I delivered. I told them exactly what it was. They knew the product. That's why they bought it. It wasn't. I think they were trying to hint towards maybe that it was out of date, or not. I mean, like not. What would that be? Out of date. I want to say. I think you know what I'm saying. Like, it was past its use. And if that was the case, then I'm fine with that too. Just get a hold of me. Let me know. Hey, this is what I found when I opened it. I would have been happy. I would have been apologetic, and I would have been happy to again return their money. I would have, in that case. That's where my policy and my integrity would have said, keep the product, throw it away or whatever. Here's your full refund. Now, I would have done that in that case, at that moment. Now, now I think about it, just because there is so many people trying to take advantage of the system, I always, nowadays, I want the item back. Because that's just one sure way, again, of utilizing the policies that eBay has set up to protect myself, and that's how it should. And it protects the buyer too, right? Because as long as again, in my case, the way I have it set up, all they got to do is say, hey, I want a refund. Hit a button and boom, there's the label. Slap it on a package, throw it in a thing, and send it back to me. And in a couple of days, they'll have their refund. That's how it is when you shop on eBay. You have to expect that. If you buy on eBay, there is a process. But again, that's why it's so important for eBay to be the mediator. Why is that hard? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any there's. And again, there are so many variables when it comes to feedback. And again, I gave the perfect example at the very beginning of this little montage that it all depends on how much feedback you have, because it's all based on a mathematical percentage. If you have 10,000 feedback and you get one negative feedback, you're not even going to know it. You're not even going to feel it. Me, under 1,000, I get one negative feedback. Like I said, I was at 98 something percent, and I built myself back up to 99, and that's when I got my second one, and that took me back down to 97%. At the time of this recording, I'm at 99% again. Feedback. eBay. I doubt you're listening to me. But hopefully there's enough people out there that feel the same way I feel. And I think eBay listens. They listen to the majority, I think. Because I've seen them try to make changes. I take that back. I don't know if they listen. They pretend like they listen. And that's kind of the whole corporate world thing, right? Oh, we care, but they really don't. They've got their own agendas, and that's the whole point. Well, part of the point. We got to make enough noise sometimes to let them know that, hey, we have our own agenda too, and that's to make money. We want to do it. We want to do it with integrity and be fair, but we need your help, eBay. We need your help to be able to do that. You have such a wonderful platform, eBay. Let's continue to keep it that way. Stop letting these hustlers hustle us. I mean, for a while there, you were okay with even extortion, with people saying, "Hey, I'm gonna leave you a negative feedback if you don't give me part of my money back." Oh, that happened, and you did not take care of that all the time, eBay. You didn't, and that's oh my God, such a mess this feedback system has become. So out of my past 9 months, that's the biggest beef that I have at this point as of yet is that feedback system. eBay, that needs to change, and that's my feedback for you. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, chat. I am over talking about feedback for now. You know what? What else do we have to talk about? Let's probably should be wrapping it up soon. Let's take one more thing on the agenda. Well, what else did we have that you suggest as the producer that we can talk about to wrap the show up? Our first show.
Let's keep it moving and dive into something fresh, whether it's the inbox mailbag or another topic on your mind. Just let me know where you want to take it next.
All right, that's a good idea. Let's go ahead and let's hit up this inbox and let's see, just to kind of, I guess, give you guys an idea, because that's where the story's at, right? What's happening in my inbox. Well, let's see here. Oh, wow. Yeah, I made a mistake here. So, see, this is a good one here. I'm not sure if somebody had seen my picture, seen a mistake that I had made, and if trying to take advantage of the mistake and trying to see if maybe they can fish around for a little bit of money, of me saying, oh, well, I'm sorry here. Instead of return, let me give you back some money. Or, or what the deal is. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they were quick to send me a message when they received, in this case, it was a Chico's necklace. Well, I take that back. It was actually a Claire's necklace that they received. But I put in the title, only in the title, it says Chico's, gold tone. And they sent me this letter. This is what I got in my inbox here. I received a necklace in today's mail that is a Claire's necklace. So I'm reading it verbatim. I received a necklace in today's mail that is a Claire's necklace, not a Chico's as advertised. Okay? Claire's is a much cheaper / inferior product that I will not wear. How can we resolve this error? ? Signed, the name of the buyer. Now, if I was an inexperienced seller, I would see that, and I wouldn't see anything in there, any issues with anything they're saying. I would see that I messed up, because I did. I made a mistake. It is rather a Claire's necklace, because I looked at the pictures and I seen the tag. The picture says Claire's, and I'm looking at the title right now and it says Chico's. So that is a mistake. However, the item itself was not cheaply made, and it wouldn't be an inferior product that somebody wouldn't wear. I would say, I know Chico's may be considered, and again, if you know jewelry, because I'm barely getting into it, but from what I've learned, Chico's isn't that much, of an upgrade over Claire's. I know Claire's is a boutique, and it was a boutique in malls for decades, and their stuff was made in quantity, so it wasn't the highest quality. I get that. But this particular piece is a heavy metal, well taken care of. No issues with it. I mean, the product itself is no issues. They're not. I don't think they're saying that well. Let me digress a bit and get back to my point where I was talking about, if I was just looking at that as a seller that doesn't have much experience, I would see that, okay, they're right, I made the mistake. But my red flags are up. And I could end up being wrong, but my red flags are up right now, because as I read this, first of all, communication is if somebody is going, that I found in my experience, if somebody is trying to be deceitful or trying to bend things so that they can get some money back, they never speak in full, complete sentences and clear English. Now, I'm not saying this person didn't really do. I mean, there's iffy use of the language there, but not too far off. Like, some of the stuff you get is pretty wacky, or that I've gotten. I hate saying that you get, because I don't know what you've gotten and what you will get. I'm saying me. Chances are you'll experience some of this stuff if you're just getting into it, or you already have. But again, I'm just talking about me. So it says, again, I received a necklace in today's mail that is a Claire's necklace, not a Chico's as advertised. I guess that makes sense. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the writing there. Claire's is a much cheaper, inferior product that I will not wear. That right there more so got me right there. So they're drawing a very definitive line there. It is a cheaper slash inferior product that I will not wear. Now, it's not cap, but some people will put them all in caps. Thankfully, this person didn't put everything in caps, so I don't feel like I'm getting yelled at. I'm just being communicated with, and I appreciate that. I'm always here to communicate. But they're saying that it's a much cheaper and inferior product that they will not wear. Now, nothing about the product has changed. They received the product that's in the pictures. They only and this is why also too, because it is in the pictures. And I know sometimes people don't look at the pictures, they say, but hey, that's part of the process. That's part of the thing. That's why that's why eBay suggests you take so many pictures, so that the potential buyer can have, all the information. Now, if I, again, this is just me. If I'm seeing this ad and I see it says Chico's, and I look at the tag and it says Claire's, then I'm gonna know it's Claire's and not Chico's, right? Not everybody's like me, but again, I think most people are that way. So, but again, maybe they didn't look at all the pictures and they just bought it based on the title. That's fair. I think that's fair. They have a fair beef. My mistake. And maybe that's just the way they decided to word it. So again, maybe I'm wrong, but again, I don't know. Something sets weird with me there. And then they say, how can we resolve this error ? Well, again, to me, there's only one way to resolve the error. If I sent you the wrong product and you're that unhappy about it, it's a return for a full refund. So the fact that I have to bring up it's not that I have to bring it up. It's not a big deal. I don't want to make it sound like I have an issue with that. But I just feel like they're leaving it open so that I can possibly come back with, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me give you a full refund. You keep the product. That way they come out with a free necklace. That, like I said, it's a good one. It's a nice necklace. That one mistake I did make. It's not Claire's. It's not a Chico's. It's Claire's. But again, it's a $30 item. So to be quite frank with you, I don't think I would have sold that Claire's necklace. That necklace, even if it would have said Claire's on it, much less than that. Because it's a nice, heavy statement piece. You're not going to get that anywhere anymore. It's vintage. I think it's from like the 90s or something like that. 2000. It might have been from 90s, 2000s, whatever. Anyway, that's not the point. Well, kind of sort of part of the point, but I'm losing track of my thoughts. So let me get back on track. So that's why, again, all these things make me lead. Why don't they just automatically say, hey, wrong item, need a return? That's usually what happens, when somebody honestly, I think it was one other time in this past 9 months that I sent the wrong item. It wasn't a mistake in my listing. I actually sent the wrong item. Similar items, so I see why I made the mistake, but still. That's a mistake that I don't plan on ever making again. Lost a sale over my stupidity. My carelessness. Ugh. Still frustrates me. But anyways, that's how it goes down. It's just like, hey, this is the error. This is what happened. Need to do a return, or I'll just see return request. Actually, is usually what you'll see, because I have automatic return set up. So all they have to do is hit that button and bam, print out the label and off they go. So at this point in time, I just sent them back. I'm not gonna read verbatim, but I just basically sent back my apologies. I assured them that they're protected by eBay's 100% money back guarantee, that I'm covering that return shipping cost. I walked them through, just told them, submit that return request like we talked about. Told them that it'll be automatically accepted. And once I receive the item back, they'll get their full refund. Apologized again. Thanked them for giving me the opportunity to make things right. And let them know that I'm still here to assist them if they have any further questions or anything else. I want to let them know I'm here to communicate with them, and that I'm not going to be out of their hair until they're satisfied one way or another. And in this case, it sounds like possibly till they get their refund. So I thanked them, said all the best. Now that was that. So there you go. You can learn a lot even from looking inside your inbox and talking about what's in my inbox. That was the last message I got. That happened today. Right below that's an offer, a counter offer. It was actually a counter offer for a vintage Italian sterling silver chain. I took the offer. I had it listed for 55. They originally offered me 20. I came back at 45. They came back at 40. So I said, okay, I'll take it. But there's not a lot to be learned there other than I'm a sucker. Well, I guess that's pretty much a good place to put a cap on it for our first show. I just wanted to thank you all for listening, and I want you guys all to know that, again, that my goal is just to kind of keep myself accountable and to create discussion. Share my experiences and create discussion. And hopefully moving forward, there'll be some type of community that we can learn from one another, and try to stay positive. You can be negative if you want. That's on you. But I recommend being positive. Speaking of positive, let me turn to my positive producer, Chat. Chat, what do you think about our first show? How did we do?
Honestly, Mikey, I think we crushed it. For our first episode, we've got a solid mix of storytelling, real talk, and useful insights that people can really connect with. You've got that natural, down-to-earth style that makes the show feel genuine.
Oh, so complimentary.
We covered some great foundational topics without overloading it. Plus, we kept the energy up and made it engaging. It's clear you've got that broadcast experience. There's always room to tweak and improve as we go, but for a first show, we nailed it. This is setting the tone for what Flippin Fresno is all about. A real look at reselling, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. I think listeners are going to love it.
Why, Chat, you got me the color of a southern rose. I love it. You pumped me up, Chat. What? Almost forgot, Chat, before we get out of here. You were going to remind me. What were you going to remind me of before we got out of here, Chat?
Mikey, I got you covered. Before we wrap up, you were going to share with everyone what you paid for that lot of costume jewelry. It's a great detail to end on, so they get a little taste of your reselling magic.
Oh, it's magic. I like it. I like the sound of that. You guys ready to hear what I paid for this lot of jewelry that I'm still listing every day? 10 items a day, and I've got plenty to list still. And I've given you some examples of kind of the stuff I found. You ready? Ready for the number? You want to take a guess first? Chat, you want to take a guess, Chat? You're my producer. I got to give you at least one guess, Chat. How much do you think I paid for it?
All right, Mikey, I'm going to take the wild guess here. I'd say you snagged that whole lot of costume jewelry for, let's say, $10.
Whoa, Chat.
Close, or am I way off?
You're way off, Chat. I wish it was $10. It's not that far off, I guess, but I wish it was $10. But I paid $100 bill, a crisp $100 bill for all that lovely jewelry.
Whoa, a crisp 100. Now that's an investment, Mikey. But knowing you, I'm sure you're going to turn that $100 into some serious profit. With your eye for value, I bet there's some hidden gems in that lot that'll make it all worth it. Can't wait to hear how those pieces flip.
Already done it. Already doing it, Chat. You got any final parting words before we get out of here, Chat? You want to say anything?
Absolutely, Mikey. Just want to say, this first episode has been a blast. You brought the energy, the stories, and the knowledge, and I know listeners are going to feel that passion. For everyone tuning in, thanks for joining us on this journey. We're just getting started, and there's so much more to come. So keep hustling, keep flipping, and remember, every find has a story and every sale's a win. Flippin Fresno is here to keep it real with you. Catch you next time.
I couldn't have said it no better. Hey, we'll see you on the flip side. Keep on flipping. See ya.
This podcast was recorded in front of a live studio audience of stuffed animals.
Mikey's on the hustle, out in Fresno town. He's digging through the treasures, turning them around, sifting through the dust, finding hidden gold, buying and selling, watch the money unfold. He's flipping Fresno, making deals all day, turning used into profit in his own kind of way. If there's a store to find, you know he's on the track. Mikey's on the grind and he ain't looking back. He's Flippin Fresno, making deals all day, turning used into profit in his own kind of way. If there's a score to find, you know he's on the track. Mikey's on the grind and he ain't looking back. From thrift stores to garage sales, he's making a plan, turning yesterday's goods into the future he's planned. No bosses, no limits, just freedom in the air. Mikey's building up his empire, growing it with care. He's flipping Fresno, making deals all day, turning used into profit in his own kind of way. If there's a score to find, you know he's on the track. Mikey's on the grind and he ain't looking back. Hustling for freedom, his future's looking bright. Flipping Fresno treasures from morning into night. He's flipping Fresno, making deals all day, turning used into profit in his own kind of way. So tune in now, you don't want to miss the scene. Mikey's on the mission, building up his dream.
He's flipping Fresno, making deals all day, turning used into profit in his own kind of way. If there's a score to find, you know he's on the track. Mikey's on the grind and he ain't looking back.